Okay. Good afternoon. We're glad you all are here. Thanks for taking time to join us this afternoon. We're really excited about the planner that we have been working on with many of you. So thank you for those of you who've been on our test team for this past year. It's been a lot of work, but we've had really great feedback and participation to come up with this planner, this leadership planner, specifically for New Mexico Main Street executive directors. So most of you, I believe all of you were at the Ruidoso conference or institute in September. So you saw a run through of it. So we're not going to spend a lot of time doing that, but we definitely wanted to just hit a couple of highlights of some things that have been updated and also talk about how to download the planner because it can get a little confusing and answer any questions you all might have. And just as a reminder that, originally the idea was to create a planner just for work and to leave it at work and it become a work tool. But one of the things the team really felt was important that it also include the ability to use it for personal. So it really is a multifunctional planner for the most part, except for some worksheets in the back that are very specific to Main Street. So there's also a lot of flexibility with it and built-in flexibility to customize it and make it work for you. And the files will have the option of being a printable, and you can print the pieces you want and put it together how you want it. Or you can use it on your tablet of some type in digital files. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Julia and let her talk more about the actual files themselves.
Okay, I'm gonna share. Good. Okay, and so Robin will be sending out the link for the Dropbox link for this a little later, but once you get that link and you click on it, you will come to this page, and from here, you want to not even look at the files, you want to download them, and that's going to zip it up and it'll download to your system. It is a pretty big file, about 700 megabytes.
Wow.
Yeah.
File.
So, can I do it on? Oh, hold on. 1 second, please.
That
So,
is an adorable screen. Just going to say that.
thank you. Thank you.
Like the little cat in it. It looks out of place, but it fits perfectly.
I have to find him. He's hiding out there. Okay. So once you open that zip file, you'll see the print and the digital versions kind of separated out there. So for the print, you'll see that they're all just one sheet, one page at a time. And then the digital is in what we call spreads, where you get 2 pages side by side. So we're just going to look at the print ones for now. Okay, so for the first file that you'll see, this is just 6 pages of samples and tips that have to do with the planners. It's going to be weird. Okay. So we have a sheet of the daily routines in the ideal workday with some kind of sample things. The Eisenhower matrix sample here, along with time blocking. So what is time blocking? An example of how to do that with some tips, more tips. And then this page is new, and it's pretty much an idea dump of things that you can use this monthly dashboard page for, because the monthly dashboard page is pretty open to whatever you want to use it for. And that scares some people to just kind of have a vague page. So we have some ideas here for what you can use that page for. Let's see, skipping over to the next file that you get in here. Okay, please get smaller. There we go. here's the cover that is optional if you want to use. This is a new page. So the first page in here is new, and it's an index page. We listened to you guys' feedback in Ruidoso. And so these pages can be used to kind of tell yourself where certain things is, especially if you're like pulling out different pages and moving them around to kind of create your own kind of planner setup. You can put in what something is and what page you can find it on. And then the rest of this one, I think, is pretty much the same. You have the future log, which is the year at a glance. Your ETS focuses, personal development, the ideal day, and the daily routines. Okay, the next file is going to be your monthly spreads. So you'll have all batched together, your calendar with updated quotes. We've changed the habit trackers to just trackers, so you can track personal things or work related things here. Here's that scary monthly dashboard page. And then you have all your meeting pages. And then it just goes to the next month. And all 12 months are in each of these files. All right, the next one is the weekly / daily pages. And again, the whole year is in here. And what's different on this? So we changed up the bottom here where it just said calls and emails before. Now you can put in your priorities for today. So every day you can decide, okay, these are the things that I have to get done, and you can put those down here, and then people that you need to contact that day. And yeah, they're all the same, and it goes on through December. Okay, this next section is probably the most changed. We have a lot of those same checklists and worksheets that we showed you guys in Ruidoso. The service request tracker, grant tracker. A new one is the financial reference page. So when it comes to revenue and expenses, you have a place to kind of write in, and you can do this on a monthly basis. You can do this on an annual basis. The idea was to help you with your impact report and getting that information together. Or if people just ask about financials and ticket sales and that type of thing, you kind of have a place to go to quickly for a reference. So we have that for revenue and expenses. So fundraising as well, advertising, you can kind of keep up with all of that stuff for tax reasons too. Yeah, right? Yeah, that could be helpful for tax. This one is also a new one, and this is a accreditation compliance checklist. So just a place to get organized when you're trying to get all of those bits and bobs together to go into that digital dashboard. And it's just a checklist, and then you can write in the date that you uploaded that. Okay, and then we have our usual project activity worksheets and event worksheets, presentation tracker, presentation planning worksheet. There is another new one down here. Somewhere. So yeah, this is a new one as well. And this one relates to the impact report, because we know that it's a lot of information to get together. And so this is meant to help you in that process. There is a checklist down the left side, and then every section of the impact report is kind of put here with the ones in bold. Those are the required sections for the impact report, but you can delegate some of this stuff to other people. So you can write down who you delegated this to if they've written the copy, if it needs to be written out, if they've gathered photography for these things, and if they've put it in the Word document. So, and then the key for that, for those little icons, are down at the bottom there. And then this last page is just the acronyms for all the things that you hear people, all the letters that you hear people just throw out. You have a reference for that. And I used this recently, I think with Kat. She asked, was that you, Kat? Asked what a CBS is, and I'm like, the channel? No, I went and looked and see.
So what was funny, because I had one of those, but it was an old one and it did not have CBS on it. I did make sure
Good.
I looked before I asked the question, but yes, now I'll never forget.
Yeah, right. So there's a lot of them. I didn't realize that there were so many. It's kind of like the military. You drink the Kool-Aid and you know all the lingo. But yeah, that's just a quick reference sheet for that. There's a back cover, and then the last file that's in there is just a blank dot grid. So if we don't have something that you need, or you just need some note space, you can just print as many of these off as you want to. And if you end up coming up with something that is super useful in your work and you think it'll be useful for other people, let us know, and then we can maybe build that out into a spread that we can include next year. So
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
and thanks, Julia, for this fantastic design. It's so
welcome.
cool to see something in your mind come to life and look so great. And we had really great input also as well from the org specialists. So thanks to Eduardo and Amy for kicking in and getting that together as well. So we're excited, y'all. This is really cool to see this happen and be available for you to use in the next year. Any questions for Julia on downloads or the files themselves? It's pretty straightforward.
It seems straightforward. I'm sorry if I missed this. I had somebody walk into my office. On the print pages, they're not, that you didn't do the spread, so that if I print it and do it double-sided, I'm not going to end up with, because that was my one thing that I kind of ran into when I printed the spread. My calendars would be on like one sheet of paper on dual sides.
Yeah, so there's we have the print versions that are just one sheet after another, so you should be able to print those that way. But if not, there is, in the digital file, there's the pages set up as spreads as well.
Okay, cool. Cause yeah, when I printed them off from the sampler, it was, I ended up just reprinting the kind of tweaking the way I printed in order to get them as a spread.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and
then
sometimes it is, you have to move things around, yeah, so that they print side by side.
Yeah, basically it needed like a blank page to start off with so that it kind of correlated properly.
Gotcha. And
So
that's where you can use that dot grid page too. That's a great insert if you find when you put it together. I know I was playing with putting together just the yearly, monthly, weekly in an online print place, and it's 249 pages, and I had to add a page behind the cover for the spread to come out, the month to be on left and right, otherwise
Exactly.
front to back.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, watch that before you print. If you have the option to print preview, make sure that that's going to be correct, and use one of those dot grid pages as an insert if it's not, if it's off. Super easy.
Yeah, and it's correct if if you printed every single page that there was, then it'll line up right. But since we're breaking it up, sometimes it gets a little wonky on the page count.
And it's impossible for Julia to anticipate that. So it's going to take some forethought depending on how you put it together. And if you're playing in Adobe Reader, is it Acrobat? One of those things. The one that you can manipulate and move stuff and pull pages out, then you'll definitely want to keep an eye on that, because if you pull a page out, that's going to change everything. And that's why they're not numbered. So if you want to use the numbered index that Julie showed as well, you'll have to number your pages once you get them all in there in the correct order. Which I believe you can do that in a lot of the programs. I'm not sure if you can in Acrobat, but I know the print program I was looking at gave you the option of they would number the pages.
Okay.
So we'll figure all that out. Looking at printing, the one company I've been trying to find one who would do it with a spiral bind, because it's pretty thick. And to do it with a hardcover front and back. And because otherwise, like Office Max and some other places do it, but they're all soft covers. And I wanted a hard one. So I'll let you know how
I actually ended up buying a trapper keeper type of thing and using that
Okay.
as, yeah.
Exactly.
And then I've spurred on a whole bunch of people locally to actually go hunt down real trapper keepers now.
Too funny. Well, and as we talked about it and we showed in Rito, so like there's the tool system that Lisa and Clovis uses. There's other people just put it in notebooks. So super easy if you've got a front back printer to print it out in your office in black and white and just stick it in a notebook. And they even make 3
And
holes
that's
of
exactly what I'm
paper.
doing.
Perfect.
I've even created like like a board pack. I've pulled out pages with the board meeting page, the calendar, a few other ones to give to my board members and have those available for them. And I've even used the board meeting ones and started taking it to the Arts Council and using them there and bringing extras in case people, and just using the one that doesn't have the date on it, like the month on it, and making some extra copies for other boards that I serve on. And so,
Sweet.
yeah, it's actually being quite widely circulated in TRC.
Wonderful. And that's quite all right. I mean, it's a great tool, and if you're just using the monthly and weekly, even the yearly, monthly, weekly, it's very versatile and can be customized. So 100%. I'm going to go ahead and because we're recording, I'm going to keep rolling here, and I'm going to go ahead and do this quick little presentation that I have about routines, time blocking, and the Eisenhower matrix to explain those very briefly, since they are in this planner, and the sample page has some tips and tricks for using these and for doing some planning. I wanted to just hit what they are and define it a little bit more clearly for people who might just be coming on board who did not participate in all the kind of pre-work we did in understanding these. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to go to full screen mode. Okay, so I'm going to do what we're calling a quick guide to routines, time blocking, and the Eisenhower matrix. So the whole purpose behind our doing this is really all about being better time managers and managing our time, and understanding that we do have the power to do that, because what I have learned through the years, and many people have said before me, is that people make time for what they want to make time for. So if there's something they want, they will make time for it. And so being efficient and effective in the work that you do is really all about time and how you handle and you manage it. The 3 things that in the study I've done throughout the last I guess year and a half, this really kind of kicked off for me. I was doing some stuff with routines, but when Amy Barnhart had the idea of doing the roundtable we did on routines, and Julie and I worked with Amy on that and talked about things that we were doing, it really kind of became a passion for me. And I believe, and I found in my personal life, that this is kind of life-changing when you figure out how it works for you. And so you'll hear some of what I shared is about what's working for me, but I encourage you also to do some research and play with it and find what works for you. Maybe it's exactly how it works for me, but maybe not. maybe there are just some tweaks or some changes or a little bit different approach. It'll work for you as well. So there are kind of three things that all this come back to in having being a good time manager. And they are habits. Those are things that we do automatically, and those can be good habits or bad habits. And I love the example of, driving to work the same way, when sometimes you're so busy in your head that you leave to go to work, you get to work and you don't even really remember driving there, but you did it because it's a habit and you do it the same way all the time. And routines are the things that we're going to talk about today. They're just collections of habits or actions that are done routinely. And then rituals are basically can be habits or routines, but the motivation, the attitude behind it is really kind of more self-care focused, about taking care of yourself, soul care, and not always just output oriented. So routines break up into two different places, actually, personal and work. So the personal ones I kind of see as like things that happen as you just get up in the morning and just get going, and that you do until you head off to work. And then there's your work startup, your work shutdown, and then the evening routine that's personal are the things you do when you get home, and from there to shut down and go through your evening. And this is what I do in the morning. I get up and I do some measurements. I take some measurements and take vitamins and supplements. And what you see here is a collection of things I do, as well as things that I found other people do in my research. I like to then center myself. I do some intentional breathing, exercise. Some people meditate and get ready for the day. And when I say exercise, I don't mean like go to the gym. For me, it's not go to the gym. It's like do some stretching. I have some knee exercises for physical therapy that I'm doing, the things that are important to me. So again, this is looking at this list, figure out what is important to you and what you need to incorporate to make your day and your day go function smoothly. For me, doing these things helps to set me up for the rest of the stuff I need to do that morning. For some reason, my mind is clear and I just feel like I can do it. I feel more motivation, typically more energy as well. So I get going, do my morning prep. These are all things that need to happen. I put shave in there for the guys too, because I realize there are men who are doing this as well. It's not just all skincare and makeup, and there are men who are shaving in the morning. And also just all those things that you need to get done, care for your pets, care for your children. I have a cleaning list that I try to get done throughout the week. And so I try to kick one thing off that list each morning, and that helps me to get going. A lot of times I unload the dishwasher while the coffee's going so that I'm ready to load that thing up during the day as other things are happening. So then the evening routine, there's that include the things that you need to do to get done after you get home from work. Typically dinner, we all have to eat. Dishes, again, getting sometimes those dishes done and in the dishwasher going again. It's an endless cycle. Everyone knows those dishes and the laundry never are done. It's just something you do again and again. And so having a way to incorporate them into your routine is a good thing. And then taking some personal time. I used to still occasionally after dinner, sit down and pop my laptop open and do some work. And I try not to do that. I think it's a good time to have personal time to step away from work and take care of yourself and your family. Then as you head to bed, there are things you can do. And I think one of the purposes of writing them down and having a plan like this is to help you to do them consistently as well. Because sometimes you have a good intention to do things and then you forget. But having it part of your list of what you're going to do can help you to be more consistent in things that you're trying to do better. I also am a big believer in putting my phone on do not disturb for the night, so that of course you can set it up so those emergency people can get through. So like if my kids have to call, they're getting through whether I'm asleep or not. But there are not typically calls that you need to take in the evening that are work calls that are going to be super important. They're typically things that could wait till the next day. So don't be afraid to turn your phone off if you need to, or put it on do not disturb. And hopefully, you're not taking tons of work calls on your personal phone. But if you've got a work phone, be sure to go ahead and don't be afraid to let that thing just be on for your work hours, and to turn it off at 6 o'clock. So, work routines. Those are the things that once you get to work or you use to start up work. And for, those that might be working from home still, whether you go to your office or whatever you do, make sure you make time to kind of make it an important happening. And I hate to say ritual, but it's also, I think, part of self-care to have a good plan to kind of, especially if you're working from home, separate that work time from your personal time, because you're still in the same space. But there are things you can do to make your desk ready to work, have it cleaned off, have certain things in front of you, light a candle, make sure you've got your coffee or your tea or whatever drink you want. And some of our EDs have been reading first thing in the morning at this point, and reading something that's work related, a book or professional development, to help to just enrich themselves and to learn something new. And then you can spend time running through your planner, your schedule, your to-do list, and checking your communications, your email, social media. And then related to time blocking, because that's something that we've learned that's a good habit to be in, or a good part of your routine, is that when you're working on a specific project, if you're working on a grant writing or a plan or a project plan, to be able to set your phone to do not disturb work while you're doing that, so that you're not interrupted by things that may or may not be important. And this morning, there was a question about, people coming into the office and having interruptions, and people constantly taking up big chunks of time. And I would encourage you not to be afraid to say to folks when they come in, hey, I only have, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to visit with you. Let's get going and find out what they have to say, and then moving on from there. Even if you have to, if they're still chatting, walk them out the door, get in your car and drive around the block, and then come back to the office. But to be able to protect that routine, to set boundaries, and make sure you're getting the work you need to get done, because we all know that the Main Street director's life is crazy busy, and you could work 80 hours a week if you would allow yourself to do that, if you don't set some boundaries. Some people do a midday check-in with their routines, but most people that I know are doing startup and shutdown. And shutdown is just a way to kind of disconnect from your work at the end of the day, to check and respond to your final communications, to review your list for the next day, and then, if at all possible, stop answering work emails and phone calls, to just step away from the job and go enjoy your evening and do your evening routine. So I mentioned time blocking, and that's also something that we have found is really important, is that productivity technique for time management. And it's basically where you take a period of time and divide it into smaller segments or blocks to get things done. Look it up on the internet. There's a lot of great experts out there on time blocking, and who do it and do it well and have great information. But the bottom line, it's basically integrating a calendar and a to-do list. It's turning your calendar, your work schedule, into a to-do list. And it makes total sense to do that. This is the sample that's in your sample pages of just so how you might block out your time. But the key is, if you're doing a super productive focus time or working on a project, to set that aside and turn your phone off and get things done in that time frame. If you have a grant that's due in a month, spend 1 or 2 days a week in a chunk of time, a couple of hours at each sitting working on that grant, is much more productive than rushing and staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning the night before to get it done. Not that we're seeing any of you do that. Perish the thought. So time blocking is a really great way to help schedule yourself and to be more productive. There are lots of different ways to do it. So again, check it out online and see what other people are doing as well. And if there's a method there that you really like. Now, one other thing we talked about that turned out to be a really good discussion early on in the planner meetings we were having is the Eisenhower matrix for decision making. And it's just a tool that helps you to prioritize your work and your priorities and increase efficiency and effectiveness. And this is one that my daughter shared with us, that she's runs a marketing team for a large nonprofit in Austin. And this is what they do with everything that comes across their desk to decide where it's going to go for not only herself, but her team of how it's going to get done. So you have things that come in to do that are going to be important and urgent. It means that they need to get done and they need to get done quickly. So you need to figure out how to get that on your calendar and get it out. So it's okay to do that. Other times when things come in, they're going to be important, meaning they need to get done, but maybe not urgently. So that's something you're going to what we call schedule. Schedule a time to do it later. And that's where it can go on your calendar and you can plan a block of time to get that done, not right this second just because it showed up, because it's not urgent. It can go at another time. Then there are other things that come across your desk that are maybe not important, but they are kind of urgent. It means something that needs to get done, but maybe it's not something you have to do. Is there someone you can delegate that to? A board member, volunteer, an employee, someone else who can step up and do that. And a lot of times this is also something that can empower others, that make them feel like they're engaged in doing more to help. So those are typically tasks that don't take a lot of explanation, that someone can just step in and do. Again, they're not super important, but they are maybe kind of urgent, that they do need to get done pretty soon. And then the final place on the chart are things that are not important and they're not urgent. They are, do we need to really even do that at all? And this is where I think sometimes as nonprofit leaders, it's easy to get overwhelmed, feeling like you have to do everything. And there are some things you can say no to, just flat out no. So limit or limit those things. And one of the examples here is just request for copies of files on your website. If you've got PDF files on your website and someone wants a printed copy of it, well, they can do that. That's why it's a PDF on your website, so that they can print it off at their convenience and their cost. You shouldn't feel like you have to do that. And other things as well, serving on committees for the community. Your job as a Main Street director is very district centric, and it's good to build relationships, but doesn't mean you have to serve on every single committee that you're asked to serve on. So again, this is a way not only for you to prioritize and plan, but also to kind of set some boundaries for things. So try it with things that come across your desk in the next week. Just print this thing out and take a look at it when you're making those decisions. And so those are the things that we have not spent a lot of time talking about, other than in the meetings that we had earlier in the year with the planning team. So here's my email and my phone number. Feel free to give me a call if you've got any questions on those things specifically. I also tried to find the presentation that we did early on routines, Julia, and I could not find that anywhere. So it might not be available anymore. But if we can, we'll see if we can track that down for y'all, because that also had a lot of great recommendations on books and other tools that people could use. If that's something that interests you all, let me know and we'll see if we can find that. So that's what we have to cover today. We just wanted to have that planner out to you, and then those things we ran through of tools that are available to use in your planner, and also to help you schedule with your routines, your time blocking, and using that Eisenhower matrix. Any questions?
I found the resource guide that I can put that link in the chat with all the different books and things that people,
Perfect.
books, apps, videos, podcasts, and blogs.
Awesome.
I have a number of questions, but I think it might be better on a one-on-one basis with you, Robin.
Okay. Sure, no problem. No problem.
Just because I have a few questions in regards to priorities and the difference of opinion of those,
Okay.
and I don't want to put anybody on blast.
I hear you. No worries. I'm
Nobody
gonna
in
go
this
ahead
room.
and let me go ahead and stop this recording. This is what we'll make available to folks that weren't able to attend today. So thank you all for being here. And where's my stop recording button? Got it.